Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Pretty excited about today's topic. We are visited by Polly Doyle. She's Communications Director for North Canton City Schools. And what an amazing story you all have to tell. So, Polly, let's just go back to when did this happen? A custodian is just going about his daily business, and then some metal piece breaks off of a locker, and the rest is truly history. Tell me the story.
Sure. I was busy. This all happened on May 29th, which is the end of the school year. And as you can imagine, at the end of the school year, there are so many different activities. And so I do a lot of photography and video and those sorts of things. And I received a text from the middle school principal, David Eby. And David said, "We found something that you really need to see. Could you stop over when you're done?" And I texted it back and said, "Sure, I'll be there in about an hour." Mm-hmm. So I went over and I walked into the middle school office, and the secretaries there, they were just beaming. They were so excited. They said, "You're not going to believe this." Chaz Pyle, who is the custodian at the middle school, Chaz was going down the hallway and he heard a loud clang, and a piece of trim, the metal piece that covers the area, the crevice between a locker and the wall, had fallen off. And remember, this building was constructed as the high school back in 1956. So he went over to see what was going on and decided that he was going to have to reaffix that trim where it had fallen from. And as he was leaning down, he noticed what he thought was a red pencil box or some kind of bag that would hold pencils. And as he leaned down and he pulled it out, and it was covered by probably 6 inches of dust. Mm-hmm. And as he pulled it out, he discovered that it was not a pencil bag. It actually was a woman's clutch purse.
So a clutch purse,
right?
Not with a strap.
No, it was a clutch purse. In fact, I'll explain that later on. But so he went ahead and he took the purse out, and that's why Chaz is my hero.
Yes.
There are a lot of individuals that would have just tossed it in the
Thrown
trash.
it away.
Exactly, but not Chaz. He took it to the office and turned it in, and the ladies there started going through it, and they said, "This is just too good to pass up." So when I got there, they showed me the purse. It was still covered with dust.
No one had wiped that off.
Clean it because they felt that the family had to actually see what it looked like coming out of the wall.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I took pictures of everything. Now, I have to tell you, Susie, I did not share right away what was in the purse because your listeners who are female know that the contents of a purse are very private.
It's very personal.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I couldn't do that. I didn't feel right. So we went through the things that were there, and her identification card was there. And in fact, she had a library card. In fact, she had her mother's library card as well. Anyway, so we knew her name was Patty Rumfola.
Yeah.
And that started the search. Where can we locate Patty and return a purse that had been lost for 6 decades? And so I went on Facebook because nowadays if you want to contact people, find people, you go on social media.
Sure.
And it was wonderful. People were so interested and so helpful. And eventually somebody helped me find Patty Rumfola's obituary. Unfortunately, she passed in 2013, and I was so sad because she lived in Pennsylvania, and I could have driven there, and I would have taken the purse because I would have given anything to be able to hand it to her and see the look on her face.
Oh, yeah.
But she passed away in 2013. Well, looking at the obituary, I noticed that she had 5 children, and I looked at the first name, and I thought, let's see what I can do. And I looked, and she has a Facebook page.
The daughter.
The daughter, one of the 5 kids.
Perfect.
So I looked to see if there was anything there that would help me make contact with her. And I hated to message because I wanted to talk to her in person and make sure I had the right person. So I found out that she worked making costumes for a local theater company.
Wow.
And so I called the theater company and I said, this is Polly Doyle. I'm a communications director at North Canton City Schools. I'd like to get in touch with Stephanie, but I don't have her number. And because of all these scams that go on over the phone nowadays, would you have her call me?
Right.
So I gave my cell phone number out. And the lady behind the phone, the lady at the theater said, you have something of her mother's? And I said, yes, I do. It's her purse.
Wow.
So she called Steph. And then Steph called me back, and I told her what we had found. And she was incredulous.
Yes.
I mean, she was just stunned. She could not believe it. Yes, it was. This was Patty's daughter. I had the right person. And I said, Steph, I'm going to mail you your mother's purse. If you would give me your address, I'm going to make sure that I send it to you. And I am not going to reveal the contents until I've talked to you because I want to have the family permission. The contents of the purse included some pretty personal photos of the family and those sorts of things that, as I said earlier, you want to make sure that you have the permission from the family to share.
I was honestly amazed at how many things she was able to get into a clutch. I thought I was pretty good at jamming them full, but that was amazing how many things are in there. It just kept going and going.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was so fortunate because once this appeared on Facebook, then people started calling me. And reaching out to the North Canton District office. So I went ahead and I asked a few of them who were her best friends. So I found those ladies, and I called them and talked to them.
Neat.
And the one lady said, there's no way that Patty carried that purse every day. And you could imagine having that, carrying a clutch as opposed to having a purse that had a handle, would be pretty awkward at times, especially in those days because you didn't have backpacks that you carried. Instead, we carried our books and we had our purse. And she said she was probably at the school for one of the dances. So we suspect it could have been a homecoming, something like that, because Patty's locker was placed directly from the gym, one of the doors to the gym.
Okay.
So they probably had the dance there. And because this was in 1957 that she lost her purse, if you go to the middle school now, what was once the high school,
yes,
you'll see that we have display cases above the lockers. They were not there back in that day.
Sure.
And we suspect that they did not have trim on top of the lockers. So poor Patty probably put her purse up on top of her locker, and it fell through down into the
And there was a gap.
There was that gap. Now, here you are. You're a young woman, probably, 15, 16 years of age, and you've lost your purse. You don't know what to do.
I can't imagine. You think of the horror that is. I know. Yeah, we've all been there. It's like, I don't know where it is. It's truly disappeared. Well, it had gone into the wall. Was this something that we think she knew what had happened? She just didn't know how to get to it? Or we think maybe she just tossed it up there and then reached and it wasn't there anymore?
Well, and I've even wondered, I don't know.
Yeah.
We have no way of knowing. She never mentioned it to her daughters or her sons.
Sure.
She never mentioned it to her best friends. The two of them, I said, did you know that Patty lost a purse? And neither woman knew the story. She had no idea. And as I said, the one woman just said, well, there was no way that she had it at school. It had to be at a dance.
It seems more like an evening bag, like a clutch.
Right.
But she had interesting things in it. She may have just grabbed everything from her everyday purse and plopped them in there to take to school with her. Being that most of the dates on the cards and so forth are like 1956, 57, it seems like it could have been her freshman year.
Well, probably sophomore year
okay.
at that time, I'm guessing. It was probably, I can't remember completely. I think it was a 3-year high school at that point. Because remember, most schools had junior highs.
7th, 8th, 9th.
Right.
And then 10th, 11th, 12th.
Correct.
That's right. So it's fun to just try and take yourself back and put in the shoes of what was going on there. But no doubt, she was upset. She'd lost her purse.
I would
That's
think
an
so.
upsetting situation.
And you know something, Susie? I think that's one of the reasons that this story has taken off so much, because who among us has not misplaced a purse or a wallet at some point? I mean, that happens to all of us. Fortunately, most of us locate that missed purse or wallet.
Yes.
We didn't have to wait 6 decades for it to be found.
Well, it's also easy to understand why you wouldn't mention it to your children, because this happened while you were a child. This was years before you get married, way longer before then you have 5 children.
Right.
You might not ever tell them about, one night I was at a dance and lost my purse.
That's right.
And yeah, but here it comes now, out of the past, a time capsule that just speaks to us about generically life in the 1950s,
Right.
and then about Patty herself.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that time capsule.
It turns out that Patty was just a typical teenager from the 1950s. It's so sweet because on Facebook, there are so many positive comments. She was such a pretty girl. I had to laugh at one point. People were talking about how she looks like Taylor Swift or somebody else. Her daughter and I have laughed because I'm not really sure that she looks like Taylor Swift, but she was a very pretty young woman.
But she was more of a Joni Cunningham. Truly, Happy Days, that was the look. That was the
Exactly.
style.
Exactly. And she was carrying pictures of 3 of her classmates, senior photos, and one of the young women said that Patty was a swell girl. And
Great.
yeah, so
Good language.
The young people on Facebook are saying, "Wow, look at that, swell." Who says swell?
Yeah.
And then the people, baby boomers, are saying, "Well, that's what we said back in those days." And the one thing that really I find interesting is a lot of the young people today don't do this anymore, but when we had senior pictures and we shared them, you would write a comment to that person, and that's what this person, Bonnie, did. And one thing that keeps coming up is people keep talking about how beautiful their handwriting is.
Yes.
The
The cursive
penmanship.
writing.
Exactly, and they're just amazed that what it comes down to is that women and men of that generation were graded on their handwriting,
That's right.
and cursive handwriting was important. And of course, then the people on Facebook who are baby boomers are saying, "You wouldn't understand, but that's why we have beautiful handwriting." And then the younger people are just amazed that handwriting could be so pretty. And in fact, one young woman commented and asked, "Why do old people have the same handwriting?" And so it led to a discussion of Zane and Blosser.
Penmanship.
And exactly the Palmer method of penmanship. And so it's really fascinating. But
Oh, yeah.
there are family pictures, and there's one picture of Patty with a friend and with her dog. And the young girl who is with her, and they both have permanents, so they have the real curly hair. And the young woman that was with Patty in the picture comes on Facebook, and she says, "That's me. I'm with Patty." And
my.
I believe she said the dog's name is Snickers or something like that.
Wow.
And so it was fun for people to be able to talk to her about Patty. It turns out they're cousins, and that's how she happened to be with her.
Can't imagine anything better than being a communications director and having something literally come out of the walls, land in your lap, and go viral.
Exactly.
That is amazing. How viral are we talking about?
After a while, I was dreading looking at my email.
I'm sure.
Because we had news services from the United Kingdom, from Poland, from Australia. We have people on Facebook that are from every continent making comments and asking questions. And there's just that universality of when I was in school.
Yep. We've all experienced high school. There's it's just so relatable. Everything about it is so relatable. But you're getting to see a young woman, a snapshot of a young woman
Right.
of the 50s. So we're going back, to last century and visiting her for a day.
Exactly. And you know, something what she had in her purse really is not all that different from what young women would have today.
Sure.
She had the comb, and she had pencils, and she had a pen. She had makeup, powder from Evening in Paris, and she had Hazel Bishop lipstick.
Yes.
And
some brands we haven't heard of for a while.
Exactly.
Very, very fun. Oh, it's all so fun. We're visiting with Polly Doyle from North Canton City Schools, and we'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community. Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Polly Doyle from North Canton City Schools. We're talking about that purse. You know, that purse you've been reading about, belonging to Patty Rumfola from 1956, 57. We're not quite sure exactly when it got misplaced, but that seemed to be the football season and baseball season. We know she was a sports fan, don't we?
Yes, we do. And I've even wondered if she had a boyfriend that was on the baseball team, because she had a real interest in baseball. And we all know that if you're a sophomore girl in high school, there's probably a young man who's got your attention. And she had some different tickets that were torn in half. You could go to a game apparently for 35 cents or for 50 cents.
Wow.
Which it was kind of fun to see. We were laughing because there's a schedule for the football team, and Don Hertler Sr. is one of the coaches, and of course everybody in North Canton knows about Don Hertler. Probably everybody in Stark County knows Mr. Don Hertler.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful man.
So you're seeing some old names from the past as well come alive again.
And the pictures, besides the one young woman that has identified herself as a little girl, even some of the people in the senior pictures, you know, mentioned that they were in one of those photos, which was fun.
There were I remember seeing some long sheets of paper that looked like schedules of some kind. What was that?
It was a program from Synchronized Swimming.
Wow. Okay.
She belonged to the Y, and apparently it was some kind of synchronized swimming program that was held, and she had all of the different people that had participated and what the name of the music was that they performed to. And that was, I mentioned that she had library cards, her card and her mom's card.
And her mom's card.
Yeah, think going home and saying, "Mom, I lost your library
I
card."
would love to know that conversation. Yes. You had one job, to bring this back to me.
Exactly.
Yes. And also, how did that end up in a purse that's not your everyday purse? That just, you know, it sounds
Well,
like
it was
she
in
just...
the wallet. She had taken her wallet.
Of course, that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, her wallet contained she had different calendars. Somebody had commented on Facebook, and I think that person is probably correct, commented on the number of calendars that she had. And you get the sense that Patty was very organized. And that makes me think that it had to be even harder for her to lose something, because you could tell that she was very careful with her possessions.
What was the wallet like? What did the wallet look like?
It was aqua. And by now it's faded. We can tell it was aqua because of the snap is still aqua. Most of the rest of it has turned a greenish yellow color.
And the purse itself, what color was that?
It's red.
That, I've been told, and this was from my mom in the 50s, if you can only have one color of shoes and purse, make it be red. That was like the universal color of shoes and purse. If you only have one, that's the color to have.
Is
so
that right?
Isn't that kind of fun? What material? Was it a leather or what? Something else?
I guess it's a leather. I believe so.
Okay. But right now, did the dust ever come off of it?
No, I was cleaning it up because I was getting ready to mail it to the family. And as I was preparing to do that, one of the ladies at North Canton Middle School in the office said to me, "Polly, you can't take all the dust off of it because they need to see how dirty it was." So
So it stayed dirty.
I cleaned quite a bit of it off, but
Okay.
I left some dust so that they had an appreciation for how long it had been there.
Yes, yes. You said she had her wallet. There were some coins. I love that there were, 27 cents?
27 cents. There were 2 dimes, and the rest were pennies. And when I talked to Steph about the change in the purse, I said, Steph, I happen to notice these are wheat pennies. They might be worth something, and you might want to check out the dates and see how valuable they are. Well, you know something? She did something that I think is even sweeter. She waited until the entire family was together, all 5 siblings. She was having a birthday party for one of her 2 boys, so the entire family was there. And they were going to video the opening of the purse, so it would be the first time that they saw it all together. And the video became so long, she said it was impossible to send, and that's fine. But what I thought was really sweet is it doesn't matter what the coins are valued at. It doesn't matter what the worth of the coins would be. Each one of those children took a wheat penny and carries that wheat penny with them, because it reminds them of their mother.
Yes, they've got a piece of her to carry around all the time.
Exactly.
Some people might not be familiar with what a wheat penny is. What can you tell us about that? It's just different, isn't it? It's a design that we don't see anymore.
That's right. And a number of the wheat pennies are precious, I understand. I'm certainly not an expert on collecting coins. So
that was an interesting Facebook discussion where some people who were coin collectors jumping in saying, I'm trying to tell what dates these are. Can you tell me? And that probably was not anything you thought of to look at when you were contacting the family. But evidently there are some dates that with wheat pennies that they're very valuable.
That's what I'm told, because I can tell some of the people were a little disgusted that I hadn't checked the dates.
Well, I'm sorry.
It was the farthest thing from my mind.
Can't think of everything.
No.
But the true value is that they belong to their mother,
Right.
and that's the precious part of that. Who cares what a banker might give them for it in exchange?
Exactly.
Tell me about the family, their response, their reaction, your interaction with them.
Oh, I've laughed because they're just the sweetest people. They had sent the purse back to me. It arrived last Wednesday because they wanted it to be shown at the middle school so that when people come in from programs, we would put it in a display case.
Oh, cool.
And that way people can stop by and they can see everything. And I can find out the dates of those coins that I was slacker and didn't get those dates. But anyway, they were sending them back, and then there's a television show that is doing a story on them tomorrow night. So Steph reached out to me. I'd say she sent the purse. I got it on a Wednesday. She reached out to me on Thursday and said, Polly, could you send it back? They want us to have the purse. And I said, sure. So I overnighted it back to Maryland, and they're going to have the purse, and then they'll be returning the purse. Here's something to think about, though, as we were talking. Stop and think. The question when you go to FedEx or to UPS, do you want to insure the purse?
Yeah.
There's no value that you can it can never be replaced.
This is priceless.
Exactly.
What? Yeah, so you can't.
No.
Because there'd be absolutely no value that you put on that. But it made it safely, please tell us, back and forth?
Yes,
okay.
It has.
That's wonderful. You think of it, too, as it's a peek into this young woman's life on the day she lost her purse, but it's also a peek into, if we think about what was the world like back then, 1956, 57, whenever this disappeared. We're talking Eisenhower era. My mind goes that way. What music were they listening to? What was she wearing? Don't
Sure.
you just wonder about them? What were her children surprised to learn about their mother from this?
You know something? I don't think they never expressed any surprise at what they found in the purse. I would say it was more of the sentimental value and the thought that it was just something that had belonged to her, and so it's very precious to them.
Yeah.
And that's why I just feel such an obligation to take good care of it, because I'm very sentimental. I wear my grandmother's rings. Family's important.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that they have what belonged to their mom.
Yes.
You know,
What
'cause-
happens to it now? Will it just go permanently to them, or will there?
Yes, it's going to be returned to them. And I had told Steph, so, well, don't worry about it. There's no hurry. And I said, Steph, I can't take a chance.
Yeah.
I can't take a chance on anything happening to it. So we will display it for a time period, and then it will go back to Maryland.
People who want to see it, where and when can they see it?
It will be at North Canton Middle School. I'm not really sure when she's going to send it back, but I can let you know.
Okay.
I can share that with you.
And we can always keep checking into your Facebook page. I'm sure you'll let people know when
Sure.
when that will be on display to the public during school hours or during.
They would have to sign in.
Sure.
They would have to sign in order to, and I'm sure you're well aware of it, every school now, because of security,
Yes.
we are very careful. And people have to sign in with their driver's license, and they have to wear a badge. But it will be placed right inside the door. There won't be anybody that will be allowed to wander around. So it's something we'll be very careful about, but we will certainly share that information. If I could add, for those of you that are wondering about Patty's life,
Yes.
right after Patty graduated from high school, after graduating from Hoover in 1960, she went, her family moved back to Pennsylvania, and they lived in the Du Bois area.
Okay.
And I believe that's close to Punxsutawney. And I mention that because most of you are familiar with Punxsutawney
We all know Groundhog
Bill.
Day.
That's
Yes.
right. Whether we like him or not, we know Punxsutawney. Anyway, they moved back to Du Bois, and she went to college. She became a home ec teacher, and she became involved in a theater group, and she made costumes, exactly what her daughter is doing today.
Isn't that neat?
And her other daughter, Charlotte, is a special education teacher.
Ah.
So both daughters have been influenced by their mom, and that's when we were talking about how they probably are much like their mom more than we know.
Isn't that
and that's what I
something?
think is really wonderful. I've had a chance, I didn't get to meet Patty, but I've had a chance to get to know those two. And I'll tell you this much, Patty would be very, very proud to call them her daughters. And I'm sure the sons are the same. I just haven't had the opportunity to talk to them.
So there are 3 boys and 2 girls, and they all live near each other.
Right.
That in itself is a little bit rare for families. So many people spread out coast to coast sometimes. So how neat. Do we know if Patty ever lived in the Maryland
she lived
area?
in the Maryland area, right.
So get the impression that was a very tightly knit family.
Yes, I believe so.
Oh,
I believe
the
so.
whole thing is just so wonderful. Well, Polly Doyle, what a fun thing for you, and we'll keep watching. Also, wonderful things happening at North Canton City Schools.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I have to tell you one last thing. We've got a bond issue coming up on the March 17th ballot, and that's to replace 5 old buildings with 2 new ones. And we have laughed through this whole story because people say you're still using a building that's 60 years old. Well, guess what? Greentown Intermediate is almost 100 years old.
Wow, yeah.
It's 92 years old, and Central High School, which is the early childhood center, is 94 years old. And we keep saying, imagine if those buildings were torn down, what purses we'll find there. It could
That's
be
right.
a whole nother story.
Well, this one has served you well, and I hope will serve you well. Good luck on the bond issue. Polly Doyle, thank you so much for coming to our community today.
Thank you, Susie.